Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is the second in a series of custom videos for M. If you haven't seen video 1, link in the description. Check it out. Be sure to check that out first. Otherwise, spoiler alert, we're talking about his Rolex journey, and we're at the last chapter when we talk about his grail. My grail is a 1655. That's an Explorer 2. Ideally a birth year model, which for him would be 1979. And I don't think I need to explain any more on the Explorer 2. Take it away, Austin, he writes. It's such a gorgeous, unique, and interesting watch, also expensive. So there's that. All right, well, take it away, I will. The Explorer 2 1655 was released in 1971, and in my opinion, it was the first step in Rolex making a watch that was actually truly fit for an Explorer. I made a video about that, talking about the Explorer, or Explorer 1, I guess you could call it. A lot of people weren't happy about that video, especially the ones that have an Explorer. But 1971, they released the 1655, and they market it as a watch for spelunkers or cavers, and it's got a fourth hand, which essentially is a glorified AM/PM indicator. So if you're in the cave for days on end and you get disoriented in terms of whether it's AM or PM, you've got that fourth hand that you can use along with the fixed metal 24-hour bezel to figure out if it's AM or PM. And it's both charming and questionable, the solution to this problem of differentiating between AM and PM. I mean, you could have just a simple AM/PM indicator, but a lot of real estate is used up on the watch, a whole hand and a whole bezel to solve this problem. So if you're not hanging out in a cave or at the poles of the earth where it's 24 hours of sunlight or 24 hours of darkness, it's a pretty useless complication. So the fourth hand, the AM/PM indicator, kind of redundant, kind of weird, kind of useless, and Rolex admitted it, but it took them 14 years. But finally they did. In 1985, they released its successor, the 16550, and there was a big change in terms of aesthetics, and we'll talk about that. That's really interesting too. But finally, you could separate the local hour hand, the 24-hour hand. In my opinion, that's the year where the Explorer became a watch truly fit for explorers. You could use one of those hour hands to track another time zone. Likely your local hour hand would track whatever country you're in, but the 24-hour hand would track your home time, all right? And you'd have the jump hour hand and all that. So going back to the 1655, it wasn't a popular watch, and I think there are two reasons. One, we've just talked about, the questionable function, all right? The second, arguably, the aesthetics of the 1655. Not in 2021. I think it's a beautiful watch, and you'll look at it now and it's so unique, and that's what's so interesting about it. But Rolex seems to think that perhaps one of the reasons it didn't succeed was because of the aesthetics. Think about in 1971, you had the 1675 GMT and the date subs and the no date subs, and they all look very, very similar. The dials, the rotating bezels, the oyster bracelets. I mean, for many non-watch people, GMTs, subs, date subs, sea dwellers, they look pretty much like the same watch. And then here, 1971, comes this 1655, and it's got a fixed bezel and the dial, and it doesn't have Mercedes hands. It has the regular hands, and it's got a fourth hand, and the fourth hand looks completely different than the fourth hand on the GMT 1675. It was weird. And so one of the reasons it might have been a failure, at least Rolex might have thought this was a reason, was because of the out there aesthetics, which in 2021 is so cool. But in 1971, I don't know, right? And it's telling that in 1985, when its successor was released, well, you had a watch that toes the line in terms of the typical aesthetics of the 1970s. It's got a more, well, it's got a dial that's essentially identical to the sub and the GMT. And the metal bezel is still there, but it's a little bit more tame. It's got hands of the GMT with the Mercedes hand. And also you lose that unique 24-hour hand in favor of the same 24-hour hand that the GMT came with, all right, and comes with to this day pretty much. Now you look at the difference between a 1655 and a 16550, and aesthetically they're different, functionally they're different. The upgrade in function makes complete sense, but my guess is that Rolex panicked a bit and they thought, we don't know if this thing is a failure because it's not functional or is aesthetically not pleasing. I think they panicked. They tried to make it look more like a GMT, all right? So your guess is as good as mine why the 1655 wasn't that popular. Was it that hand that was a useless function, or was it the aesthetics? Rolex apparently thought it was perhaps both, and that's why they changed both. But we really lost something when the 1655 became the 16550 because, well, the Explorer 2 started looking suspiciously like the GMT, except for color and the markings. But you know, you have the circular indices and then the triangle at the top and the rectangles at the 6 and the 9, and the case is the same. The bezel is different, the hands are the same, the movement's the same, the oyster bracelet's the same. So basically, they took it and tried to make it like their more popular GMT. And did it work? I don't know. You know, they certainly lost something. And here we are in 2021, and we look back at the 1655, and it is so unique and beautiful. And unlike any other steel professional model Rolex, and you look at its successor and it's just like, wow, you know, I wish they had kept it the same. And maybe we only appreciate it because they changed it. Maybe hindsight, we look back and we realize how special and unique it is, and everything's all rose tinted. Maybe in 1971 it was a lemon, all right? Not just in terms of functionality, but aesthetics. But here it is, it's 2021, and it's an amazing watch to have. And this is the year of the Explorer, perhaps, right? It's 2021, and it's the 50th anniversary of the Explorer 1655. So we often talk about the forthcoming Explorer, which I guess is going to be released in April, we hope. And we talk about whether it's going to come out with a metal bezel or a ceramic bezel. You know, what if, guys? And it ain't gonna happen, but we can dream, right? Let's do a little dreaming. What if it came out with the same dial as the 1655? And I'm talking about the alternating indices. What if it came out with the same hands? What if it came out at the same size? The 1655 was 39 millimeters. You know, no more Mercedes hands. And what if they went back to the old style 24-hour fixed bezel with the way that was marked versus the successor? It would be amazing. They wouldn't, and likely if they did, they'd screw it up by keeping it 42 millimeters. I mean, look, you're looking at a purist here, and you give me a 1655 as close to what a 1655 looks like, and I'm happy. But if you start getting cute with the proportions and this and that, likely they wouldn't be able to do something that would satisfy me unless they were really to go back and just redo the 1655. Same thing, 100% the same, maybe just replace the tritium with luminova and put the updated movement. That would be good enough for me, but they're not going to do that, okay? But it raises an interesting question. If they're really trying to differentiate the models in their line, what about going back to that same dial style of the 1655 with those alternating indices? It would be really interesting. It would blow our minds, that's for sure. And it would definitely take the Explorer 2 in a different direction, quite a divergent path from where it is now, which is kind of, somewhat similar to the GMT. It's grown in size, of course, and you got the bigger hands, and maybe that's enough of a differentiation for Rolex to not revisit the 1655 any more than they already have, which really just amounts to the re-emergence of that fourth hand, okay, which is no longer looking like it does on a GMT. So M, that is indeed quite a grail to have. It's a beautiful watch. Like you said, unique, one of a kind, charming in its failings, and something that Rolex has really never done before. It was 14 years of a watch that just, we really have never gotten anything that has had a dial or the aesthetics that look that way. Very special watch. So it would be an amazing watch to have, and that's a great grail to have. All right, we're gonna stop this video. In the next video, the third and final custom video for M, we're gonna get into his questions. All right, thanks for watching, take care. Let me know what you think about the 1655. Is it the true start of a watch that's fit for an Explorer? Let me know. Take care, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.